I paid for her life, she called me a loser, so I cut her off. I still remember the night I got the call. It was late, too late for anyone to be calling unless it was an emergency. The kind of hour when bad news doesn't knock, it just breaks down the door. I sat up in bed, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, the glow of my phone illuminating the dark room. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. It was her. I answered, already bracing myself for whatever came next. "Hey," I said, my voice thick with exhaustion. "I need help." No greeting, no small talk, just those 3 words wrapped in desperation. Her voice was shaky, and that alone was enough to send my mind racing. I knew that tone too well. I had heard it before on nights when she was backed into a corner with nowhere to turn. "What happened?" I asked, swinging my legs over the edge of the bed. I was already reaching for my wallet, instinctively knowing this wasn't a call for advice. It was a call for money. She hesitated. "I messed up. I owe a lot, and if I don't pay, things are going to get bad, really bad." I ran a hand down my face. "How much?" She paused before whispering the number. It wasn't the kind of money you just scrape together overnight. It was the kind that could ruin lives. The kind that, if left unpaid, could lead to consequences no one wanted to think about. I exhaled slowly, staring at the floor. This wasn't the first time she had come to me in crisis mode. It had become a pattern, a cycle. One mistake led to another, and before long she was drowning again, calling me to throw her a lifeline, and like a fool I always did. "Who do you owe?" I asked, my jaw tightening. "It doesn't matter," she said quickly. "I just need to fix this before things get worse, please." I had known her for years. We had history, real history, the kind that made it impossible to just turn my back on her. There was a time when she had been everything to me, and maybe in some ways she still was, but love, if you could even call it that anymore, wasn't the reason I helped. It was something deeper, something messier. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was loyalty, maybe it was just old habits refusing to die. "I'll figure it out," I muttered, already calculating in my head how much I could pull together without completely wrecking myself. "Just promise me this is the last time." She didn't answer right away. That should have been my first warning. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you." I didn't sleep that night. My mind replayed every time I had baited her out, every time I had let myself believe she would change. But it didn't matter. The next morning, I sent her the money. And that should have been the end of it. For a while, I heard nothing. No check-ins, no updates, just silence. It didn't surprise me. She had a way of vanishing once the fire was put out. That was how she operated, appearing only in the moments when she needed saving, disappearing the second she got what she wanted. Then weeks later, I saw something that made my stomach twist. It was a post, one of those carefully curated social media snapshots designed to make life look perfect. There she was, laughing, drink in hand, surrounded by people who didn't know a thing about the mess she had been in just days ago. The caption? Something casual, carefree, mocking, living my best life. I scrolled through the comments, my blood pressure rising, people praising her, hyping her up. No mention of the panic in her voice the night she called, no hint of the disaster she had been in, just a girl, carefree and unbothered. And then, right there in the middle of it all, one comment stood out. "I swear, losers are always so easy to manipulate." My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't directed at anyone specific, but I knew exactly who it was about. "May." I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. After everything, after the money, after the sleepless nights, after all the times I had put myself on the line for her, this was how she saw me. Not as a friend, not as someone who had been there when no one else was. A loser. Something inside me shifted in that moment. A switch flipped. I had spent years convincing myself that she was just lost, that she just needed someone to believe in her, that one day she would wake up and see what I saw. But the truth was, she already knew, she had always known, and she didn't care. I put my phone down, my hands curling into fists. No more, I wasn't a loser, I was just someone who had let himself be used for too long. And that night, for the first time, I made the decision that should have been easy from the start. I cut her off completely. Cutting someone off is never as simple as it sounds. You think you'll feel relief, that you'll wake up the next morning lighter as if some invisible weight has finally lifted. But the truth is, when you've spent years making someone else's problems your own, their absence doesn't feel like freedom at first, it feels like withdrawal. The first few days were the hardest. My phone remained silent, and yet I kept checking it like a reflex I couldn't shake. I expected a call, a text, something, some last-ditch attempt from her to reel me back in. But there was nothing. No desperate apologies, no angry accusations, just silence. And somehow that was worse. I told myself I should be happy. This was what I wanted. No more late-night emergencies, no more scrambling to fix the unfixable. I had taken control back, drawn a line in the sand, but instead of feeling empowered, I felt hollow, like a part of me had been amputated and now all that remained was the phantom pain. I tried to keep busy, work, the gym, catching up with friends I had neglected for too long, but every so often I'd catch myself reaching for my phone, my fingers hovering over her name before I forced myself to stop. Old habits, I reminded myself, that's all it was. But then on the 5th day, something changed. A new post appeared on her social media. Not a subtweet, not a dig, something worse. A picture of her cozying up to someone new, someone wealthy, the kind of guy who wore expensive watches and drove cars that cost more than most houses, and beneath it the caption that made my stomach churn. Upgrading my life, no more dead weight. I felt a rush of something I couldn't name, anger, disgust, betrayal, but above all one thought stood out. She had moved on. Effortlessly. That night I stared at the ceiling for hours, my mind racing through memories, through all the times I had convinced myself that she needed me. And now I was just another name in her past, another stepping stone she had walked over on her way to something better. And for the first time in a long time I realized I needed to move on too. You think when you cut someone off, they disappear. You tell yourself it's over, that the chapter is closed and that life will go on as if they were never there. But people like her, they don't just fade away, they linger, like shadows in an empty room, like ghosts in the places they once stood. The first time I saw her after everything, it was accidental. Or maybe it was. Maybe the universe has a sick sense of humor, putting people in front of you just to see how much you can take before you break. It was at a coffee shop I had been going to for years, a place she had never set foot in when we were friends. But there she was, sitting at a table by the window, smiling at something on her phone, carefree, unburdened. She wasn't alone. The guy from her post, the one with the expensive watch and the smug smile, was sitting across from her, leaning in close, whispering something that made her laugh. It was like a slap in the face. I forced myself to stay still. My first instinct was to leave, to walk away before she saw me, but something inside me whispered no. I wasn't the same person anymore. I had spent too long bending over backward for someone who saw me as disposable. I wasn't going to keep running from my own past. So I stepped forward. Not towards her, not to make a scene, but to reclaim something that had been missing from me for too long, my dignity, my self-respect, my freedom. I walked past her deliberately, not a glance, not a pause, just forward motion, like she was nothing more than another face in the crowd. And as I did, something inside me shifted. I had expected to feel anger or regret or something sharp and painful. But I didn't. I felt light, unburdened. And for the first time in a long time, I realized I was finally free. I had told myself I was free, that I had moved on, that she no longer had a place in my mind or my life. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the past never knocks, it barges in uninvited, forcing you to face it whether you want to or not. It started with a message, not from her but about her. A friend, one of the few I had kept through all the years of dealing with her, sent me a text late one evening. "Hey man, thought you should know, she's been asking about you." I stared at the screen, my grip tightening around my phone. My first instinct was to ignore it. It didn't matter, she didn't matter, but the weight of those words sank into my chest like a stone. Asking about me after everything, after all the silence, what did she expect, that I'd just come running back? I took a deep breath and typed back, "What does she want?" The response was quick, "Don't know, just heard from some people that she's been bringing up your name, not in a bad way, just wondering how you're doing, thought you should know." I locked my phone and tossed it onto the couch. This was a test, it had to be. She had moved on, flaunted it, and now she wanted to see if she still had a hold on me. She didn't. At least that's what I told myself. But the next few days felt different. The peace I had been settling into felt disturbed, like someone had stirred the water just enough to create ripples. My mind, against my will, kept circling back. Why now? What did she want? Then came the second message. This time it was her. I saw her name on my screen and my heart did something strange, not the jolt of excitement it once would have, not even anger, just something in between, a feeling I didn't have a name for. I debated ignoring it, deleting it without even reading, but curiosity, damn curiosity, won out. Hey, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything, I mean that. I read the message 3 times, my mind fought against itself. Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to think that maybe, just maybe, this was real, that she had finally seen what she had done. The other part of me, the one that had lived through the manipulation, the guilt, the games, knew better. People like her didn't change, they adapted. I didn't reply, not immediately. I told myself I wouldn't at all, but the longer I stared at that message, the more it gnawed at me. By the next morning I caved. Why now? That was all I sent. No anger, no warmth, just those 2 words. The dots appeared immediately. She had been waiting. Because I miss you. I scoffed, miss me, or missed what I did for her. I just realized how unfair I was to you, she continued, and I hate how things ended. I don't expect anything from you, I just needed to say it. It was a masterful message, carefully worded, enough to sound sincere but vague enough to plant a seed of doubt, of hope. I put my phone down, took a deep breath, no, don't fall for it. And then, as if the universe was testing me again, another message came in. Can we meet just once, just to talk? I closed my eyes. I had a choice. I could pretend like none of this had ever happened, like she hadn't ripped through my life and left me bleeding, like she hadn't humiliated me, taken my kindness for weakness and thrown me away the second she found something better. Or I could go, face her, hear her out, give her one last chance to prove me wrong. My fingers hovered over my phone. I knew what the smart choice was. But some ghosts don't let go until you let them. I typed my response. Where and when? I arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. I told myself I wasn't anxious, but the way my leg bounced beneath the table said otherwise. My fingers toyed with the edge of the ceramic cup in front of me, the coffee inside already cooling. I wasn't drinking it, I wasn't even tasting it. My mind was elsewhere, caught in the web of memories I had spent months trying to untangle. Why had I agreed to this? What did I expect? Closure, an apology. A part of me still wanted to believe she had changed, but the smarter part of me knew better. Still, I was here. The door chimed, and before I even looked up, I knew it was her. She walked in like she owned the place, like she had never left, like she had never torn me apart and walked away without looking back. She was dressed like she always was, effortlessly put together, not a single strand of hair out of place. But what caught me off guard wasn't her appearance. It was the look in her eyes when she spotted me. Hesitation. Good, she should hesitate. She should know that things weren't the same anymore, that I wasn't the same anymore. She approached the table slowly, her hands clasped in front of her like she wasn't sure if I would let her sit. I leaned back in my chair, my expression unreadable. Hey, she said softly, her voice a shadow of the confident tone I used to know. I nodded toward the chair across from me. Sit. She did, and for a moment we just stared at each other. The air between us felt heavy, charged, full of things left unsaid. She exhaled, breaking the silence first. Thanks for meeting me. I said nothing, I just watched her, let her squirm a little. She licked her lips, tapping her fingers against the table before she finally spoke again. I don't know where to start. Try the truth. She winced as if the words had physically hit her. Good, because that's all I was here for. She nodded, taking a deep breath. I screwed up, she admitted. I used you, I took advantage of your kindness, and I know I hurt you, and I hate that I did that. I stayed silent, letting her talk. At the time, I thought I was doing what I had to do, I justified it in my head, but when I look back, I see it differently now. She paused, meeting my gaze. I miss you, not because of what you did for me, but because I actually miss you. I leaned forward, resting my arms on the table. You expect me to believe that? I don't expect anything, she said quickly. I just needed to say it. Whether you believe me or not is up to you. I studied her face, looking for cracks in her words, looking for manipulation, looking for the same girl who had taken everything I had to give and laughed about it behind my back. But I didn't see her, at least not in the same way. Still, that didn't mean I forgave her. I exhaled, shaking my head slightly. You didn't just hurt me, you made me question everything about myself, you made me feel like I was nothing, and then you walked away like I didn't exist. Her expression faltered. I know, and I hate myself for it. Do you? I challenged, or do you just hate that I finally walked away first? She blinked, caught off guard, and for the first time I saw it: real emotion, real regret, maybe even real shame. She swallowed hard, looking down. Both. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. A part of me wanted to believe her, to let her back in, to pretend like the scars she left hadn't hardened me. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I wasn't the safety net she could keep falling into whenever things got hard. She looked up at me, searching my face. Do you hate me? I thought about it. Once I had wished she would feel every ounce of pain she had put me through, but sitting here, staring at her now, I realized I didn't. I didn't feel anything at all. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling. No, I don't hate you. She nodded slowly, as if she had been preparing herself for something worse. So, what happens now? I gave her a small, tired smile. Now I finish my coffee and then I leave. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something else, but no words came out. For the first time, she was speechless. I stood up, tossing a few bills onto the table. Take care of yourself. And with that, I walked away. I didn't look back. Walking away from her should have felt like victory, like I had finally won the battle I had been fighting for years. But the truth is that even when you do the right thing, the past still lingers. It doesn't just disappear overnight. The next few days passed in a blur. I went through the motions: work, gym, sleep, but something felt off. I wasn't sad, I wasn't angry, but I wasn't exactly at peace either. It was like a part of me was waiting for something, a reaction, a last-minute plea, a sign that she had meant everything she said, but the silence that followed was deafening. She didn't text, she didn't call, she didn't even try to find another way back in, and somehow that unsettled me more than anything else. Had she really let go? Had I? One evening, as I sat in my apartment staring at the ceiling, my phone buzzed. I tensed for a moment before glancing at the screen. It wasn't her. It was an old friend, someone I had lost touch with because of her. Someone who, for years, had tried to warn me about what I refused to see. Haven't heard from you in a while, how's life? I hesitated before responding. It was a simple question, but I didn't have a simple answer. How was life? Strange, empty in some places, full in others, lighter but also uncertain. Better, I replied, still figuring some things out, but better. The next message came fast. Glad to hear it, let's catch up, drinks this weekend. For a second I thought about making an excuse, saying I was busy, that I had things to do, but then I realized this was what moving on looked like: rebuilding, reconnecting, taking back the parts of my life I had let slip away. Yeah, I'd like that. I didn't think about her for the rest of the night. That weekend I met up with my old friend. It was strange at first, like stepping into a life I had forgotten how to live, but after a few drinks, a few laughs, I felt something shift inside me, a lightness, a realization. I wasn't just moving on from her, I was moving on from the person I had been when I was with her. I had spent so long making excuses, bending, compromising, losing pieces of myself just to keep her happy. And for what? To be discarded the second she found someone more convenient. Not anymore. By the time I got home, I felt different, more in control, more me. Then, just as I was about to sleep, my phone buzzed again. I sighed, grabbing it lazily, expecting another friend checking in. But when I saw the name on the screen, my heart skipped a beat. Sorry. I stared at it for a long time. My chest didn't tighten, my stomach didn't twist. I felt nothing, just tired. I let the phone ring. And when it finally stopped, I turned off my notifications, set my phone down, and for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. No ghosts, no weight on my shoulders. Just silence. And for the first time, that silence felt like freedom. I woke up feeling different. It wasn't immediate, there was no grand realization, no movie-like epiphany where everything suddenly made sense. But there was something subtle, something steady, a feeling of weightlessness that hadn't been there before. I had made my decision, the past had no hold on me anymore, and that realization, it was liberating. The next few days passed in a way that felt normal, not forced, not distracted, just normal. I went to work without checking my phone every 5 minutes. I slept without replaying old conversations in my head. I laughed without thinking about whether she would have laughed too. I had done what once felt impossible. I had moved on. But just as life started to settle into its new rhythm, the past knocked one last time. It was late. I had just gotten home from another night out with friends, the kind of night that reminded me I still had a life outside of her. I kicked off my shoes, tossed my keys onto the counter, and then I saw it, another message from her. But this one was different. "I need to see you, please." It wasn't manipulative, it wasn't guilt-laced, it was desperate. I hesitated, the old instinct creeping in, the instinct to help, to listen, to be the safety net she had always counted on. But then I stopped. I wasn't that person anymore. I sat down, staring at the message, and for the first time I asked myself the most important question: what do I gain from this? The answer was simple. Nothing. I had given her too many chances, too many pieces of myself. I had fought too hard to reclaim my peace, and I wasn't about to throw that away. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I deleted the message. Not unread, not saved for later, just gone. A final cut, a final goodbye. I exhaled, the tension in my chest fading as I leaned back in my chair. That was it, the last thread severed. And the best part, it didn't hurt. I picked up my phone again, but this time I opened a different conversation, one with people who actually mattered, friends who had stuck around, people who didn't just take but gave, people who saw me for who I was, not for what I could offer them. "You guys up for another night out?" I typed. The responses came in fast, excited, full of life. And as I grabbed my coat, ready to walk out the door, I felt something settle deep inside me. This was closure, not a dramatic ending, not a confrontation, not a lingering wound, just this, moving forward, living without waiting for the past to drag me back. She had once called me a loser. She was wrong. Because in the end I won. And I never looked back.